Yeah, last night's match was a great victory for us as a team and as a program, and I think for the university as a whole. And looking forward to competing against Stanford tomorrow night.
What does this mean for Loyola to be in this situation?
From a big picture standpoint, I guess we look at the future as far as all the media and all the credit that it'll bring to Loyola as a whole. The athletics department, I know there's a lot of things that we want to do as an athletic department, and hopefully this will help us get there.
Yeah, and what I hope is it puts it on the map for the younger kids, kids coming up through club, like start looking at our school from 13s, 14s, not just looking at the historical, like dominant West Coast teams. So I think that's extremely exciting.
For either of you guys, there's California guys now playing on Midwest teams. There's a lot of Midwest players playing on California teams and New York State guys and all the inputs. How does that work out? How does everybody from the Midwest come here to go to Lewis, go to Penn State or something? What's the hook for everybody?
I think everyone's different in terms of finding the school that fits well for you, finding the team that you like, and like when you go to visit, like do you like the guys on the team? Do they get along with you? Do they have similar interests? So, and this has been one of the most competitive years over all my years in the MIVA, just in terms of teams like beating up on teams like top to bottom. Like one of the hardest serving teams we saw was Lindenwood. Like everyone's going for it this year. So, and I think I didn't get to see any matches personally, but I think it was the same in the MPSF. So I think the talent's just becoming more and more distributed.
Like in your case, where else did you consider?
I was also looking at NYU and Pepperdine. So, but I mean, of course I came here because of the coaching staff, so.
You went to Dallas with Pepperdine, they offered.
Yeah, I had a spot on the team, but
It's just one of those places where you go and it's pretty amazing.
yeah, and I grew up watching that team, and my mom went there. But again, it's what school's a good fit for you. So
The weather definitely helps. I mean, if you look at Chicago weather compared to Southern California, I think that plays a big role. Oh, I love it here. I've been here my whole life.
Did either of you guys have 8 o'clock in the morning classes or anything like that today after last time?
No, luckily for us, we're in graduate school, so all of our classes are at night, so like 6 to 9 p.m. Yeah, so
Works out, right?
yes,
Yeah.
so we get to sleep in.
What's the campus been, I mean, I don't know if you guys have talked about it today, but what's the campus been like as this whole thing's been going on?
it's really cool. Everyone's rallying around men's volleyball. You wouldn't expect it, but complete strangers come up to us and they're like, "Hey, man, like, great job." Like, I got a letter slipped under my door from the people in my apartment. Like, "Hey, good luck, great job. Like, this is awesome." It's like people are fired up for men's volleyball.
Peter and Joe, talking about your guys' success this year within the conference, do you feel that the conference Amoeba was undervalued a little bit by maybe some outsiders in how they view competitive a little bit?
I think at least recently the shift that we're seeing as far as volleyball diversifying across the nation has definitely strengthened the MIVA conference. And we're really excited that the new conference got added as well, and that we just hope that it keeps expanding to something that's a lot bigger than just 4 teams or 6 teams in the end.
And, ask you guys have had a lot of success this year, but, if you guys aren't able to win tomorrow night, do you still consider the season a success?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the experiences we've had this year and just like how close our team is, like that's what it's all about in the end. If we go out there and we give our full effort, lay it all out there, and we lose, like you can't be mad about that. Stanford's a great team, but as long as we leave everything out on the floor, because it literally is the last match, everyone's going to be completely happy at the end of the day.
And Shane, to ask you, this is the 3rd time in the last 5 years that a non-West Coast team is going to be in the national championship match. I think that's the most within a 5-year span. What's that mean for you, just in terms of growing the game and seeing the MIVA grow?
Yeah, I think obviously it shows that. I think it helps obviously that players are coming from West, coming to the Midwest and East Coast, and I think pretty much a lot of the teams have those West Coast players on them that are becoming successful. So I feel just in terms of the helps the strength of our conference as well as the East Coast Conference too. For me personally, it just shows that we're moving in the right direction to be able to get some of these guys on campus, like Peter Josias from the West Coast or Cody Caldwell, and bringing those guys, getting them here and showing what we have to offer. And there is some great volleyball outside the West Coast.
So what's the pitch you make in the living room for a guy like Peter or Cody? I mean, seriously, when they have opportunities to go play at a place like that,
Yeah.
you get them to come here.
Well, the funny thing about with Josias is I think it was like middle of winter, right? Yeah, it was middle of winter, and I think the bottom of Peter's jeans were frozen. I think we actually had him on campus. But Josias, he's got some East Coast roots as well. Boston guy, says dad and family has got some roots out there. So he kind of understood the weather in that sense. So that was wasn't too bad of a sell. But we try to get him here in that September time frame on campus when things are nice, and we tell them it's 75 and sunny every day of the year, and they believe us, and we get.
Like what you say in the living room, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
When the parents are here, you know.
yeah, basically, I'm going to take care of their son when they're on campus. They can feel good about sending them to Loyola, and they're going to get taken care of by our support staff, myself, my staff, and I can look them in the eye and tell them that I'm going to take care of their son here. And I think there's a lot that goes to that. You know, we have a huge pride in our academic and just a personal responsibility as a group. We have a great culture, and all the guys buy into that. And I think when they come on the visit or when I'm sitting in the living room with them, having kitchen dining and having dinner, I can truthfully say all that stuff.
Shane, Stanford is the one school you haven't faced this year. What kind of challenges do they present to you?
Yeah, you know, it's a team that we're somewhat familiar with in terms of, you know, we've seen a few matches on them. Lewis has played them, so we've got a little bit of video on them from earlier in the season. But they're very similar to us in the sense that they can hit you at every position. They're a good serving team, a good receiving team, and they run the BIC and the what we call a 40 off the backside of the center very, very well. So I think we're used to playing that style of volleyball. But again, we don't have a ton of information on them like what we do against, you know, our own conference opponents.
Did you get a chance to just watch their match?
Yeah, I watched I think the first two sets a little bit, and I thought they played, you know, a little bit up and down, kind of like us and a lot of the teams that were playing last night. But they bring a lot of firepower at the pins, and Shaw does a great job moving that ball around, and he's a huge threat up there as a setter. I mean, he's taking that ball at the height of the antenna a lot of the times, and it's a lot to try to keep track of, and puts that pretty good pace to the pins for his attackers and puts it in a really good spot.
Coach, looking forward to tomorrow night, you know, you're going to be in the championship match, 4,000 people there. You know, what do you tell your players to try to help them keep their emotions in check and just not be so amped up when they come out there for game one?
Yeah, I think these guys have done a pretty good job of keeping composure, and we've kind of mid-season always had this thing of a slow start. I don't know how many set ones we've dropped, but we always kind of rally back and win in 4 or 5. But recently we've come out really strong in set 1 and then kind of tailed off a little bit. But I feel like there's so much less pressure than last night because we've got over that hurdle from last night with the program, and I think it's just like Peter was saying, it's our last match together. It's our time to go out and let loose and have fun and enjoy the time that we have tomorrow night together and just let it rip. So I think it's going to be hopefully a different team and a little bit more consistent than what you saw last night.
Need to reflect a little bit historically, as a person you played here,
Mhm.
and then before was coach. And when did you envision this? And in your mind, what were some of the key steps to get to this point today?
Yeah, it's well, when I played here as a player, it was so just Midwest guys, and the previous coach took the Midwest guys. They were a great athlete and was trying to teach them how to play volleyball, and it was great. But a lot of us just didn't have a ton of experience playing. So when it came down to crunch time, or it came down to some of the finesse plays or the consistency, we necessarily didn't have it at all times. And now we're getting guys within the program that have, you know, their dads played volleyball. Their dads were Olympians. Their moms were playing. So there's just so much more of volleyball in their background that kind of helps a lot with the on-court play and just experience of what we're having right now. When I first took over, it was, you know, trying to get to the hump of the Final Four of getting that piece, and that happened last year. You know, a little bit later than obviously what we had expected. But now that we're gotten over that piece. It's just kind of a little bit easier and a different confidence what it has been before.
Were you getting picked a lot early on, like when you first came in?
Not necessarily. We just weren't winning the big match. We won the conference in 05, 06. We were doing a decent job against the West Coast schools. First couple of years, the big piece for me was the recruiting piece. When I first took over, I hadn't seen club volleyball in like 5 years, and to me, it was like everybody really struggled to me, and I couldn't believe that these guys were playing at that college and this college because they're high school kids. And so I think it took a little bit of a time, a couple of years after my coaching to figure out the recruiting piece, and then you started seeing the recruiting piece, the positives coming into that 2010, 2011 era when we were doing a pretty good job, but we just couldn't win that big match. And I think now we've got guys that have played in those big matches and that are now obviously transitioning to winning these big matches in college.
Was there a player along the way, like you look at, that was the kid who got you in that change things?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big piece was Cody Caldwell. It was West Coast kid, #1 kid in the country coming out of high school, and my big thing was we got to get this kid on campus. How do we get this kid on campus? And he was the 18 Open MVP, and I think he was a 16 Open MVP, so it was just a name that everybody knew of. And we got him on campus, showed him what we had to offer, and we just hoped we had a shot at him. And, it came down between us and a couple schools and picked us kind of last minute, which is great. And then as soon as that happened, then everybody was talking about and thinking about, hey, what's going on over at Loyola? What do they have to offer? And then we started getting a couple more guys, and then the dominoes started falling.
And one more question about club.
Mm-hmm.
Boys club volleyball in the last few years has really blown up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you've got a club, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And can you talk about how that's all tied in together and how it's got to help like you, Lewis, Anita, the IBA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's I don't even know how many teams in the Chicagoland area. Just in the last 10 years, it's just exploded around here. But it allows us just to spend so much time and see a lot of kids, especially with Lewis and I, everything's in our backyard. And Dan and I do our best to keep the best Chicago kids at one of our 2 programs. And yeah, we're going to battle head-to-head on things, but we're 2 totally different schools on that piece. But it's just it's great for our university, Dan and ours, that we've had a lot of success, and I think that that's helping grow the Chicago club area as well, and getting a lot of people excited. That's why it was so important to host this national championship, to show the club kids, show the young kids what this high-level volleyball is live. And this is the first time that in this Chicago area that we've had an event like this.
Joe, just jumping back to the match really quick, from what you've seen with Stanford, is there a player or an area serving-wise that you guys really want to exploit in this upcoming match, or have you not decided that yet?
I think in comparison to last night, we really got to focus on getting serves in first, and then going from there, and really making sure our serve and pass game is on point, and then everything will follow after that.
You have friends on the Stanford team, club guys, high school guys?
Yeah, definitely. Steve and Irvin, we played club together for 2 years and also high school together. So we had a successful high school team. So it's nice to finally play against him again. Yeah, I talked to him at the banquet, and then yesterday he sent me a really nice congratulatory text. So I doubt he'll be that friendly tomorrow, but yeah.
You and Dawson, you know each other well?
As far as professional, yeah, absolutely. He's always a stand-up guy. Enjoy conversations with him. He's definitely a coach that I feel if I had any sort of issues or I had questions on, I could easily pick up a phone and call him, and he'd be more than happy or more than helpful to help me with anything. So I've always enjoyed conversations with him out recruiting and during matches or anything. So I think he's a great guy, stand-up guy.
I just got to say, in the match yesterday, the atmosphere we had, like from our home crowd, that's something that I liken it back to like our Southern section finals for high school. Like we played in front of like 2,500 people or something, and I thought it was unbelievable. But yesterday, like coming out of timeouts and stuff when everyone was into it, that's something that'll never be duplicated. I mean, maybe tomorrow, but like later in my life, like there'll never be a feeling like that. So our home fans were just absolutely unbelievable. Like the Chicago area fans, unbelievable. Like I would have never expected that gnarly an atmosphere in all my life. Like coming here, I would have never expected that. So that was pretty cool.